I just went out with an umbrella and ended up bringing the class beauty home. I originally just wanted her to take shelter from the rain. Unexpectedly, she started tutoring me that very night. She even ended up sharing a bed with me and became more and more inseparable from me. On my way home on a rainy day, I was thinking about the scene where I was rejected by Liu Xin today. Forget it, I shouldn't bother her anymore. Suddenly, I saw a girl sitting on the steps nearby. Her school uniform was soaked through. She looked quite miserable. I didn't intend to pay any attention, but after seeing the girl's face, I couldn't help but freeze. The girl's eyes also widened. Her gaze was filled with surprise. We stared at each other like that for a few seconds, before I finally snapped out of it and asked and ran, "What are you doing here?" She lowered her head and replied, "It's none of your business." Oh, I nodded and just started walking away. Suddenly, I heard the sound of faint weeping from behind, and Ran bowed her head and sobbed quietly. The cold raindrops hit her body. She was shivering from the cold. The rain started falling harder, but she suddenly felt as if the raindrops above her head were blocked. She looked up and found me standing right there. The umbrella in my hand was blocking the rain for her. I looked at Ran expressionlessly, and Ran reached out to wipe the rain and tears off her face. With a sob, she stammered, "What are you doing? Mind your own business. Didn't I say it has nothing to do with you?" And Ran spoke while crying. She couldn't wipe away the tears fast enough. Seeing my own class monitor crying here in the middle of the night, how can it have nothing to do with me? I took a small pack of tissues from my bag and handed it to Ran. And Ran hesitated for a moment. Then she took the tissues and wiped the tears from her face. "So, thank you." I saw her body trembling uncontrollably. "My house is right nearby. Come warm up for a while first." I directly reached out and pulled and ran up from the steps. And Ran was startled. "What are you doing? Leave me alone." "I'm not going." She struggled a bit, but my strength was unexpected to her. She had no power to resist at all. "All right, anyone who encounters this would help. Otherwise, I don't like meddling in others' business either." And Ran gave up struggling. She didn't have the energy anyway, and she realized she really couldn't break free from my hand. After a while, I pulled and ran to my front doors. I opened the door and walked inside, and Ran stood at the door without moving, looking somewhat at a loss. I looked back, helplessly reached out my hand, and pulled and ran directly inside. Then I closed the door. With the sound of the door closing, and Ran felt her heart skip a beat. Even a trace of fear appeared in her heart. I walked in, took a pair of slippers, and threw them in front of Ran's. Then I walked into the bedroom, and Ran stood at the door for a few moments, put on the slippers, and walked into the living room. When she entered the door, she noticed there were only Su Chen's shoes on the rack. She realized Su Chen lived alone. Then what caught her eyes was a large amount of fitness equipment. Now, she finally knew why Su Chen was so strong. The neatness of the living room was also beyond her imagination. I walked out, holding a set of clothes and a towel, and a hair dryer. "Dry yourself first, then change into these clothes. I don't have new ones here, but I've only worn this once. Just make do with it. You can change in the bedroom." I handed those things to her. Then I walked straight to the kitchen, and Ran held those things, feeling even more overwhelmed. Her heart was clearly resisting, telling herself to put these things down and leave immediately. But my words were like an irresistible command. After she heard them, she subconsciously wanted to obey. She briefly dried herself with the towel, then used the hair dryers to dry her hair. After changing clothes in the bedroom, it was Ran's first time wearing someone else's clothes. A blush quickly spread across her face. She kept questioning herself in her mind. What on earth am I doing right now? I actually followed a classmate to his home and put on his clothes. Am I supposed to sleep here too? I should leave after warming up for a bit. And Ran opened the door and walked out. Just as she saw me coming out of the kitchen, carrying a bowl of steaming hot food, I put it on the table. I didn't add anything to it. I just said a word to her calmly. Before Ran could say anything, I brought a glass of hot water and put it on the small table, along with 2 pills. After doing all this, I walked to the side, without saying another word to Ran. Her feelings were complicated. Her mind's first reaction was definitely to refuse, but her body wanted her to accept. After all, hunger had already taken over her brains. She looked to the side. I was sitting at another table doing homework, as if she didn't exist, seeming to sense Ran's gaze. I stopped writing and said softly, "You aren't usually such a shy person, are you? Eat up. I'll lend you an umbrella after you eat. Then you can go." Hearing me say this, Ran had no more reason to refuse. Then she stopped hesitating and began to eat heartily, but she didn't dare make any sound. 10 minutes later, Ran finished everything cleanly. Then she drank the hot water. Then she stood up, took something out, and walked over to me. I looked up and saw what Ran was holding. It was actually a 100 yuan bill. "I don't want to owe you anything." I looked into Ran's eyes. Her serious gaze didn't look like she was joking. I didn't take it, but turned my head back to the test paper and muttered, "If you don't want to owe me, don't give me money. Aren't you a top student? I have a difficult problem I can't solve. Just teach me and we're even. Give me a hand." I tapped the big question on the test paper with my pen. Ran looked down at it and subconsciously blurted out, "It's this simple. How can you not know this?" "Sorry. I'm just someone who can't even solve such a simple problem." Ran closed her mouth awkwardly. Then she reached out her hand. After explaining the problem, Ran intended to leave. "These clothes and the umbrella. I will return them to you when I go to school," Ran said softly, standing by the door. Hearing her say this, I finally remembered that Ran hadn't come to school for many days. She is Liu Xin's best friend, because she hasn't been around these past few days. Liu Xin's mood hasn't been very good either. So when I confessed my feelings, I could tell Liu Xin was very irritated. At this point, I realized something was wrong. I frowned and asked, "Let me ask you something. Do you have a place to go right now?" As expected, when I asked this, Ran was momentarily speechless. She lowered her head and said nothing. I tapped the desk with my pen and said slowly, "If you have no place to go, then you can't leave. Did you bring your phones?" I took out my own phone, opened the dialing screen, and asked, "What is your parents' number? I'll call them and have them come pick you up." I didn't hear Ran's voice. Then I saw Ran standing there motionless. Tears were condensing in her eyes like crystals. I slowly put down my phone, realizing something was wrong. This reaction, could it be that something happened at home? In the middle of the night, I made her cry in my house. This won't look good. It seems I can't avoid meddling in this after all. I thought of many comforting words in my head, but because I'm truly not good with words, what finally came out was, "What's the situation?" Ran sobbed for a long time. Before she slowly spoke, she explained the situation to me. Her parents were in a car accident more than a week ago, and unfortunately passed away. Now she is no different from an orphan. No relatives want to take care of her. Her grandparents are also gone. I listened with a tight frown. Now I finally understand why Ran was sitting there crying alone. Such a tragic thing, to have her bear it all alone. It's really too hard on her. So you have no home to go back to? Hearing my question, the grief on Ran's face deepened even more. Seeing Ran's expression, I knew I probably asked the wrong thing. The environment was very quiet now. Only Ran's faint sobbing could be heard. I averted my gaze, not knowing what to do. Ran is our class monitor. She's not just a high achiever. She's also the most popular person, with a bright and cheerful personality. She's the core soul of the class. And now someone like that is actually crying like a fountain in my house. If she goes to school and tells other students about this, I wouldn't just be the laughingstock of the class. I'd be the enemy of the class. Thinking of this, I stood up and walked over and said, "Just stay here. You can leave when you have a place to go." Hearing me say this, Ran immediately snapped out of it. She walked over and said hurriedly, "No, no, no. I'll leave right now." Before she could finish, I suddenly looked up at her, giving her a feeling that left no room for argument. So she subconsciously closed her mouth immediately. "Either you stay here, or I call the police and let them take care of you. Choose for yourself." Ran sobbed a few times, blinked her tear-filled eyes a few times, and looked at me with a somewhat reproachful gaze. She whispered, "When you talk to Xin, are you like this too?" I opened my mouth, my gaze darting around. I couldn't say a single word for a long time. Her expression seemed to be telling me, "No wonder your confession failed." I silently lowered my head. speechless, completely losing the momentum I had just now. But when I looked up, I found Ran actually covering her mouth and laughing. Her eyes were curved, even though they still held teardrops. I clicked my tongue awkwardly and said, "Just stay here for the night. Consider it me begging you, all right." This was the most sincere thing I could manage to say. I tried to put on a kind expression. Seeing this, Ran burst into laughter. I thought Ran was mocking me heartlessly, so I turned my head away. My face was full of gloom. Ran also knew she had laughed too much. Her laughter gradually weakened, and finally stopped. She spoke up, "All right. I promise you." "Thank you, but why do you want to help me?" The words I wanted to say were simply that I didn't want my reputation in class to get any worse. Ran blinked in surprise. After a moment of daze, she said, "But I haven't heard any bad rumors about you in class. The only news about you is the matter of you confessing to Zing Zing. If I stay with you like this, aren't you afraid Zing Zing will be unhappy?" "Whatever, she has nothing to do with me anymore." I shrugged my shoulders, looking like I didn't care at all. Ran was somewhat astonished. She asked tentatively, "Do you not like her anymore?" I shook my head. There's no need to persist in something that gets no response. "I see. That's for the best." After deciding to stay, Ran hung up her wet clothes to dry. She sat on the sofa, not knowing what she should do. Seeing that I was still studying, she toyed with her hair, making an impatient sound. Then she stood up and walked over slowly. Seeing that I was troubled by a certain problem, she reached out her hand. Pointing at the question on the test paper, she began to explain it to me. I listened intently, nodding from time to time. Finally, with Ran's help, I managed to solve the problem. I soon finished the test paper. I checked the time. It was already past 2 a.m. I packed up my things, looked at Ran sitting on the sofa, and said, "You go sleep in the bedroom. I'll sleep on the sofa." Though my emotional intelligence might be low, at the very least I knew that I shouldn't let a girl sleep on the sofa outside. But Ran repeatedly refused. She was already very grateful to me for letting her stay. "It's okay. No, this sofa is uncomfortable to sleep on. You go to the bedroom." My attitude was also quite firm. Knowing this sofa wasn't suitable for sleeping at all, one could easily fall off, and it was uncomfortable. "Just listen to me. Precisely because it's your house, and you're the host, I as a guest can't be the one sleeping in the bedroom." The two of us kept declining like this, moving the argument from the living room to the bedroom. Ran saw that the bedroom was clean and tidy, completely unlike the bedroom of a boy living alone. And the bed was very large, more than enough for 2 people to sleep in. Seeing my persistence, Ran wouldn't back down either. So she suggested, "Then we'll both sleep in the bedroom. Is that okay? I'll sleep on the floor." "Why should you? I'll do it." The two of us argued for about 5 more minutes. In the end, we took the suggestion both reluctantly agreed on, separating the middle of the large bed with a quilt, dividing it into left and right sides. An uncontainable blush appeared on Ran's face. She was actually going to sleep with a male classmate in the same bed. She hadn't realized this problem until just now. "I'm going to change into my pajamas." She realized that I was indeed a young man. How could she be so relaxed sleeping here? Her sense of safety was too poor. What if Su Chen did something to her? Thinking of his physical strength, she would have no power to resist at all. After a while, I walked back in, wearing a thin ice silk pajama. The muscle lines beneath the clothes were very obvious, and Ran only took one look, before quickly averting her gaze. But the tips of her ears quietly turned red. The two lay on the bed. She squeezed her eyes shut tightly, but opened them again after a short while. She couldn't sleep at all. After 30 minutes, Ran heard even breathing sounds. She knew Su Chen must have fallen asleep. So after relaxing, she also fell asleep, sleeping very soundly. She even had a dream, dreaming of her parents, gradually walking away. When she opened her eyes and sat up abruptly, she found that it was already morning. It was already bright outside, and Ran looked to her side and found she was the only one left in the bed. Then she heard sounds coming from outside, and Ran sat up from the bed. As she walked out of the bedroom, a delicious aroma drifted out from the kitchen, instantly awakening her still slumbering stomach. She looked toward the kitchen and saw me wearing an apron cooking. She walked over. Just as she reached the kitchen door, I happened to turn around and met Ran's eyes. Mornings. Good mornings. And Ran greeted me in a small voice. I glanced at her, simply responding to her greeting. And Ran noticed lunch boxes on the table, filled with the food I had just prepared. I was preparing lunch. Why do you bring your own food? The school food is actually okay, right? I replied simply, dietary restrictions of my ethnic minority. Is that so? No wonder you look like you might have such roots. I've finished breakfast. You ate first. I pointed to the side, where a steaming hot breakfast was laid out. At this moment, Ran's stomach was fully awake from the aroma. Seeing the breakfast, her belly sent out a hunger signal. She answered softly, and then sat down at the dining table. However, she didn't start eating immediately, but waited for me. Waiting for me to finish and sit at the table. I'm going to buy some clothes today. Maybe I can't go to school until tomorrow. Afterwards, I took a key out of my pocket and tossed it directly in front of Ran. Take the key and come back when you're done. Otherwise, you won't be able to get into the house. And Ran looked at the key before her, knowing I was afraid she'd have nowhere to go, or that she might live secretly. She picked up the key and answered quietly, I understand. But she couldn't stay at Su Chen's house forever. He was intentionally letting her stay. She couldn't just live here without a care. But the money she had on hand wasn't enough to rent a place. School was the priority now. She couldn't just drop out to work. Besides agreeing to stay here temporarily, there really was no other way. After breakfast, I packed my things and left, leaving without giving Ran any special instructions. Her heart couldn't help but marvels that Su Chen trusted her so much, letting her stay in his home alone. She decided to tidy up the place for him. Since she was staying here, she had to do something. Once she finished tidying, she would go out to buy clothes and take a shower to properly clean herself up. When she walked to my workout area and looked at the dumbbells in front of her, she immediately got a bit of a headache. She had to move these things to clean, so she rolled up her sleeves and walked over, gripping the dumbbell bars with both hands. She took a deep breath, and Ran tried hard to shove the dumbbell aside. Her face turned red from the effort. Why is it so heavy? How does Su Chen train with such strength? And Ran tidied for 20 minutes. Her gaze swept across. She caught a glimpse, suddenly seeing near the cabinet a cardboard box sitting in the corner. Inside were many papers resembling letters, and some small boxes. She knelt down and took one out. Looking at the content written on it, a flash of surprise crossed her eyes. Were these all love letters Su Chen wrote to Zinzin, and gifts he had bought? Soon it was time for school to let out. I was already on the way home. Walking past the school route, I saw the steps where I found Ran yesterday. I should have left her my phone number. What if she really left? I only had that one spare key. I returned home, stood at the door and knocked. After a moment, I heard footsteps inside. Suddenly I felt relieved, and Ran opened the doors. At this moment, she looked a bit different from how she did this morning. She seemed more radiant. The moment she saw me home, it was as if a glimmer sparkled in her eyes. You're back. Yeah. Luckily you didn't leave, or I'd have to spend 200 yuan on a locksmith. Hearing my words, Ran lowered her head and replied softly, I promised you. How could I have left? Right. Do you really not have a phone? I'm afraid I won't be able to contact you if something happens. Hearing this, Ran turned her head away awkwardly, saying, a few days ago, I threw my phone into the river. That's something. The person before me didn't seem like the one in my memory. The class monitor who was good at taking care of others. Kind-hearted, gentle, cheerful, and lively. She was more like the one I encountered yesterday. A lost, crying child. I stood up and walked into the bedroom, coming back out after a moment, with a phone in my hand. Use this for now. My old phone still works. I'll give you a second SIM card too. At least this way I can reach you. And Ran took the phone. A look of surprise appeared on her face. Her gaze was filled with disbelief. Even if it was an old phone, to just give it to her like this. Why? Why are you doing this for me? Is it because of Zinzin? In her heart, this was a very likely answer. Was it because she and Liu Xin were close friends? And since Su Chen liked Liu Xin, he wanted to get on her good side. I was slightly stunned. remaining silent for a few seconds. Then I shook my head, responding, I don't see this as being particularly good to you. I think it's just what should be done. Just like how you helped me tidy the house. That wasn't you being good to me, but something you felt you should do. And no matter what I do, it definitely has nothing to do with Liu Xin. I began studying at the table, quietly solving problems, while Enran sat on the sofa fumbling with the phone. She opened the gallery and found there were photos inside. Her first instinct was to exit. After all, this was Su Chen's privacy, but driven by curiosity, she clicked on those screenshots, finding they were chat records. The person Su Chen was chatting with was indeed her best friend Liu Xin. Though not particularly flirtatious, one could see they had a good relationship. At least they were good friends. In the chat logs, Su Chen's words went from many to fewer and fewer, even though they were just message logs. And Ran could see the change in Su Chen's mindset, from being full of anticipation to complete disappointment. And Ran understood the entanglement between the two. Liu Xin's attitude got worse and worse. Su Chen's messages got shorter and shorter. The frequency of them messaging each other also decreased. No wonder she didn't understand before why Su Chen had persisted for so long. It turned out Liu Xin herself was the one giving him hope, and then personally extinguished it. For a moment, her heart actually felt contempt for Liu Xin's behavior, and at the same time, great sympathy for me. And Ran had just raised her head when she was startled, because I was sitting right there, pen in hand, legs crossed, watching her without saying a word. Now she felt extremely awkward. I said flatly, if there's anything on your phones, just delete it all. There's nothing useful in there anymore. Hearing me say this, and Ran hesitated for a moment, then did as she was told, deleting all those screenshots. After deleting them, and Ran borrowed a book from me and started reading. The two of them sat there studying quietly. Meanwhile, I started scratching my head again, faced with questions I didn't know how to solve. I really couldn't figure them out no matter how hard I tried. What's wrong? Is there something you don't get? And Ran stood up and sat down beside me. Pointing at the problem on the test paper, she said, I'll teach you. Finally, under Ran's patient guidance, I learned how to do the problems on the test paper. When finished, I had a look of utter exhaustion on my face, seeing my mentally exhausted state. And Ran couldn't help but let out a laugh. Just then, aside from Ran's laughter, a sudden stomach growling sound was heard, and Ran's laughter stopped abruptly, freezing on her face. I looked at Ran with doubts, asking, did you eat dinner tonight? A faint blush appeared on both of Ran's cheeks. She stammered, well no. I let out a heavy sigh, then stood up, headed to the kitchen and said, wait here. Seeing that I was going to cook for her, and Ran quickly waved her hands in protest. There's no need to go to any trouble. I don't need to eat. It's too late, forget it. I can't let you go hungry while you're here. I only gave that one reply, then stepped into the kitchen and closed the door. A moment later, a delicious aroma wafted from the kitchen. I walked out carrying a plate of steaming fried rice. Here, eat. And Ran didn't decline further. After a soft thank you, and Ran began to eat. Soon, she finished the entire plate of fried rice. Afterward, and Ran hurried to the kitchen to wash the plate. She thought to herself, if I could eat this every day in the future, it would be a very good thing. And Ran suddenly realized, and quickly cast that thought aside. She was only staying here temporarily. Once things stabilized, she would definitely have to leave. She'd pay for the room before leaving then. She couldn't stay here for free. After walking out of the kitchen, and Ran was stunned. She saw me staring fixedly at the cardboard box. After I saw Ran, I asked, did you say them? And Ran trembled all over. Knows well. I saw them, but I didn't open them one by one to look. I just saw one. Just treat it as a joke. It's just as well I plan to throw these out tomorrow morning. Are you really going to throw them away? What is more worthless than returned love letters and gifts? Soon, it was 2:30 in the morning. The lights were turned off as the room went dark. It became pitch black. The two of us lay in bed. Today, we hadn't discussed who would sleep in the bedroom and who would sleep on the sofa. This was her second time sharing a bed with a boy from her class. If her classmates found out about this, how would she explain? But did she really care about being misunderstood now? With the major upheaval in her family, she had felt like dying at the time, wandering outside in her school uniform, crying as she walked, completely ignoring the gazes and whispers of others. If it hadn't been for Su Chen, she wouldn't know where she'd be right now. It could be said that Su Chen saved her. Su Chen? Yes, I replied, hearing An Ran call my names. I responded in a whisper as well. The next second, I heard An Ran's soft and faint voice. Good night. This time, An Ran's sleep was clearly much more restful than the night before. When An Ran opened her eyes, she found it was already daylight. Just like yesterday, she was the only one left in bed. Then she heard the sounds of cooking from the kitchen. An Ran sat up, tied up her hair, and began folding the quilt. By the time she walked out of the bedroom, I had already prepared breakfast. There were 2 lunch boxes on the table. I pushed the smaller one towards An Ran. An Ran looked at the lunch box in front of her and blinked her eyes in surprise. I prepared this for you, it was no trouble. Besides, this saves some money on food, right? An Ran quickly protected her lunch box with her hands, as if afraid I would take it back. Right. There's also fruit and yogurt. I casually tossed a small container over, and Ran looked at the items before her. Her eyes lit up. It felt as if she were back in first grade, when her mother was by her side. And that feeling, which could never return, was actually found in a male classmate. In the look An Ran gave Su Chen, the pleasure of being satisfied was particularly evident. I became more certain of my thoughts. An Ran was still a child at heart, so I had specially prepared some snacks for her today. What's the difference between her and a child? Hurry up and eat breakfast. After packing everything up, the 2 of us left the house together. I took that box filled with my sad memories and threw it away, without even a final glance. The 2 also kept a certain distance on the road, not appearing to be going to school together. Arriving at the school gate, An Ran took a deep breath to calm her inner self. Hey, class monitor. She heard a voice at that moment. Turning her head to look, she found several classmates behind her. An Ran reached out and said softly, long time no see. It really is the class monitor. She's back at school. We missed you so much. Why did you suddenly stop coming? Several people hurried forward and surrounded An Ran. I didn't mind either and walked straight ahead. Just then, An Ran saw me walking ahead, with Tang Jai leaning in close. I caught the gum Tang Jai tossed to me with one hand and put it in my mouth, asking softly, so, got it? The high-quality stuff. You're really something. Tang Jai and I were walking very close. An Ran saw it all. Even she and Su Chen hadn't walked that close. They still kept a distance. It was the first time she saw Su Chen chatting so fluently with someone. Is that Su Chen's desk mate Tang Jai? What? Hello, you're finally back. I was so worried about you. What exactly happened? The moment Liu Xing saw An Ran, he immediately ran over. There were some issues at home, so I didn't come for a while. An Ran answered verbally, but her gaze drifted towards Su Chen's group. Most of the class gathered around An Ran. Only Tang Jai and I sat in our own seats. An Ran saw Su Chen and Tang Jai constantly chatting about something. Where did they get so many topics? She was staying in Su Chen's house, yet she never saw him chat this much with her. Monitor, the teacher wants to see you in the office. An Ran stood up, preparing to go to the office to see the teacher. Before leaving, her eyes remained fixed on Su Chen, but she didn't see him glance at her even once. She instantly felt a sense of imbalance in her heart. An Ran, lost in thought, accidentally bumped into someone. Quickly taking a step back, she said, sorry. An Ran, you're back at school. Lu Yunshuo lowered his head, getting close to An Ran's face, as if trying to see something in her expression. An Ran looked up and saw the boy before her, looking at her with a face full of surprise. Yes. I had some family matters these past few days. The boy before her was the class sports rep. During the days she was away from school, he seemed to have sent her greetings frequently, but she hadn't replied to any of them. Are you okay? I feel like you're not in a good state. The teacher called me to the office. Bye. Then she hurriedly escaped from there. Lu Yunshuo turned to look at An Ran's retreating back, corners of his mouth slightly rising, showing a smile. At the office, the teacher took An Ran's hand and began to show concern. After a few pleasantries, Ran returned to the classroom. Classmates began to shower Ran with care and concern. I glanced at Ran's. Being surrounded by a crowd, I wasn't surprised at all. Fortunately, my seat was quite far from hers. Suddenly, someone ran up to me. He sighed helplessly. Kang Yue was holding a bag of candies. Hey, Tang Zhai. Tang Zhai. I bought this for you. Tang Zhai didn't even look. Shaking her head, she said thanks. But I don't want it. Kang Yue put the bag on Tang Zhai's desk and ran off. Congratulations in advance on getting diabetes. A pile of candies appeared on the desk. Tang Zhai shrugged. She said, please help me return it to him. Once it's done, I'll reward you handsomely. Give it here. I grabbed the candy bag in one go, stood up, and went to Kang Yue's seat. Kang Yue was still there gloating. But in the next second, the bag he gave away was thrown back. Kang Yue, take it back. She doesn't want it. I looked down at Kang Yue. Kang Yue was slightly stunned. Turning his head to look at me, he stood up and said with a glare, what does it have to do with you? My expression remained unchanged. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm just returning the bag. Why are you so nosy? You don't happen to like Tang Zhai, do you? Kang Yue deliberately raised his voice on that last sentence. In an instant, the entire classroom went quiet, and Ran and Liu Xin both widened their eyes at the same time. Their faces were full of disbelief. I still had no expression. I let out a breath, then reached into the bag and took out a few candies, peeling off the wrappers. The next second, I stuffed them all directly into Kang Yue's mouth. He flopped back into his chair. Without saying a single word, I walked back to my seat. The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was looking at Tang Zhai and me, but the two of us just went about our business, looking as if we didn't care at all. Kang Yue spat out the candies, stood up, and wanted to walk over. At that moment, the teacher came in for class. Kang Yue took a deep breath, gave Su Chen a fierce glare, and sat back down in his seat. By now, Kang Yue had already categorized his bulging veins as a sign of lust. During class, her eyes were fierce. She grit her teeth in anger, and Ran couldn't focus during the lecture either. Her mind kept replaying what had just happened. She unconsciously glanced toward Su Chen, but ended up seeing someone else, who was also stealing glances in that direction. Liu Xin was secretly watching Su Chen. I focused on the lesson, knowing that I wouldn't make it if I didn't study. If my ranking didn't go up, my social status and living expenses would be cut. You're quite popular. A lot of people are secretly looking at you. Tang Zhai approached me. She whispered softly in my ear. I gave her a look and said irritably, isn't that all thanks to you? Your face was full of schadenfreude. Honestly, my mom even asked yesterday when you'd come over. She wants to cook something delicious for you. Maybe another day. After class. Maybe another day after class. Kang Yue immediately stood up and left her seat. She came over to where I was, preparing to demand justice. She came up beside me, patted my shoulder, and said coldly, hey, come out. Almost everyone else in the class was watching the drama. I responded no. Kang Yue reached out and grabbed my clothes. After Ran spoke, Lu Yunshuo stood up. He immediately went to the two of them and reached out to pull Kang Yue's hand away. Kang Yue wanted to push Lu Yunshuo away, but Lu Yunshuo was tall and sturdy. She couldn't budge him at all. Lu Yunshuo spoke up. Lu Yunshuo, this has nothing to do with you. If you're really not convinced, then have a civilized PK. Arm wrestling can have a competitive spirit, but you can't start a physical fight. Kang Yue raised an eyebrow, paused for a moment, and looked at my arms. She couldn't see anything through my clothes. Do you dare? I tilted my head toward Kang Yue and said coldly, how about I make it so you never bother me again? You decide. Kang Yue was so angry that a fire flared up inside her. My words clearly showed I didn't think much of her. Come on. Arm wrestle. If I lose, I'll never pester you again. Tang Zhai suddenly looked up at Kang Yue and said, then while you're at it, don't come pester me either. Kang Yue's mouth twitched, her expression turning ugly. If I lose, I won't come to annoy you anymore. Kang Yue sat in front of me, extended her hand, ready for the showdown. I also extended my right hand. The two hands gripped together. Lu Yunshuo stood in the middle. As the referee, once he saw both were ready, he announced the start. Snap. In just an instant, the contest was over. I won completely. The people around erupted in boos, all looking on in shock. Go back and eat more sugar, nong nong. I waved my hands, signaling for Kong Yue to leave. In the hallway, Ran Liu Xin and Tian Run went to the restroom. Tian Run asked with some surprise. I didn't expect Su Chen to be so strong. I never see him exercising usually. Liu Xin said disdainfully, but her mind was still on the morning's events. Since I stopped talking to him, he started having doubts, suspecting if I was sitting with Tang Zhai. And today he's even more suspicious. Ran, what do you think of Su Chen? Do you think he's a good match for Liu Xin? Tian Run asked Ran with a mischievous grin. She thought Ran wouldn't answer, but she actually nodded seriously. Xin replied, I think he is indeed quite stoic, but he's a very good person. As for him and Liu Xin, I don't think they're very suitable. I'll see you. I told you it wasn't a good match. Ran added in her heart, sorry Liu Xin. Sorry Liu Xin. I don't think you're worthy of the feelings he gives. Tian Run nodded repeatedly, saying yes, yes, yes. Not a good match. You'd be a match for someone like Lu Yunshuo. A handsome guy like that would be suitable. Lu Yunshuo. Forget it. Who doesn't know he likes Ran? He definitely belongs to Ran. Hearing this, Ran shook her head slightly. I don't like him. Then what type do you like? Tell us quickly, she said softly. Just someone straightforward, who has their own opinions and can take care of people, with self-discipline. And then, someone a bit more manly. Who's that? Are there any boys like that in our class? I'm just saying I like that type. I didn't say it was anyone specific. At lunchtime, Ran had been looking forward to it since morning. After all, I made this for her with my own hands. She took the lunchbox out of her desk. Liu Xin saw the lunchbox on Ran's desk and asked in surprise. In her impression, it seemed Su Chen was the only one in class who brought lunch. Ran, why did you bring lunch today? Ran quickly explained. I just had a sudden whim. Liu Xin asked with a smile. Let me have a taste. Did your housekeeper make it? No, I made it myself. Really? Liu Xin picked up her chopsticks, took a small bite, and put it in her mouth. The aftertaste is quite unique, but it's delicious. You're amazing. Ran felt a bit guilty inside. I sat back in my own seat. Then she turned her head to look at me. In the afternoons, there was a PE class. Everyone went to the playground and started playing around wildly. The boys took basketballs to the court, while I sat by the path, reading a book. Look, Su Chen is over there reading. It doesn't look like he's just pretending. He's really started studying seriously. Tian Run pointed at me in the shade. Ran nodded gently. Only she knew how hard Su Chen was working. Liu Zhen didn't seem interested, pulling Ran and Tian Run saying, let's go watch the boys play basketball. Ran was reluctantly dragged away by Liu Zhen. Compared to watching those boys play basketball, she actually wanted to come and read with me. The three of them arrived by the court. When Lu Yunshuo saw Ran at the sideline, his body was like it had been injected with adrenaline. He became exceptionally active, even wanting to perform a high-profile dunk. Unfortunately, he failed, and started blaming the others for bad passes. I was still reviewing seriously. Just as I turned to the next page, a basketball was suddenly thrown into my lap. I shrugged slightly, raised my head and looked forward. The person in front of me was Tang Zhai. Yo, Tang, let's see if your skills have regressed. I slammed the book shut, set it aside, and stood up. Don't be like when you were a kid, going home crying after losing. Then you'll have to beat me first. I took off my jacket, wearing a short-sleeved shirt. My firm chest muscles and thick arms were very apparent. Tang Zhai and I went to another basketball court together. The boys playing basketball suddenly shifted their gaze, their eyes widening. One tapped the person next to him and whispered a hey hey. Look who that is over there. Those legs are so fair. When they saw Tang Zhai nearby, their eyes widened just as much. It's Tang Zhai, even though I like long hairs. Right now, short hair is fine too. No, short hair is even better. Lu Yunshuo followed the other's gaze. His eyes almost popped out. Right then, when the three girls followed with their eyes, their surprise was no less than the boys. When Anran saw I was with Tang Jai, Liu Xin had already furrowed her brows deeply. She didn't know why, but she felt exceptionally annoyed. It was like something had been stolen from her. She bit her lip, a faint coldness in her deep eyes. On the basketball court, before Tang Jai and I even started, a crowd had already gathered around the court. The boys playing basketball earlier all stopped to come over and look at the legs and the face. With so many people watching, I felt a bit uncomfortable. When did you start caring about what others think? Come on. The two started a brilliant one-on-one. Her dribbling is so fair. Oh no, those legs are so accurate. The boys on the side gasped in admiration and started applauding Tang Jai. Lu Yunshuo bit his lip at the back of the crowd, so anxious he couldn't help but stomp his feet. He originally wanted to perform well for Anran, but now why is it Su Chen's performance? While the game was in full swing, I leaped into the air. With a sudden explosive sound, a spiderweb of cracks instantly filled the backboard, and it immediately shattered apart. Glass shards scattered all over the ground. The surrounding onlookers let out a massive exclamation. Everyone's eyes were fixed, deeply shocked, their mouths hanging open. The girls were even more startled. It was their first time seeing someone shatter that thing. Lu Yunshuo's and Kong Yue's eyes turned red. Looking at the current Su Chen, Lu Yunshuo thought about how he just failed his dunk. He wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Tang Jai walked over and brushed the glass fragments off of me. She said, "All right. You won." When he jumped up just now, I think I saw. He was so cool. Tianrun excitedly shook Liu Xin's arm, jumping around like a little fangirl. Liu Xin still hadn't recovered, her eyes staring fixedly, feeling that the Su Chen before her was so unfamiliar. And Ran looked at the girls in the crowd, who were showing looks of affection. She felt a strange sensation for some reason. PE class ended just like that. I took the initiative to admit my faults, but the school only gave a simple criticism. The day passed quickly, and it was school dismissal time again. I had a feeling that I'd be cornered after school. So as soon as class was over, I packed my things and immediately fled the classroom. And Ran saw me leave so quickly and felt a moment of panic. She also sped up, putting on her bag to follow. "Let's go together." Seeing Ran in such a hurry, Liu Xin hurriedly called out to her. And Ran was worried she would expose herself. She stopped in her tracks, leaving behind a word about finishing school. She ran out of the classroom as soon as she finished speaking. Lu Yunxuo, who wanted to follow from behind, couldn't even see a shadow. What could possibly happen so late at night? Liu Xing felt that Ran's state was a bit strange. And Ran chased all the way out of the school. She only saw me after chasing in the direction of home. She hurriedly ran over. "Su Chen, why are you walking so fast?" I saw Su Chen panting heavily. "What's the rush? It's not like you don't know where my house is. Can't we just walk slowly?" This. And Ran heard me say this, and felt that it seemed to be the case. But, thinking that she could go home with him after school, she immediately caught up without even thinking. "You're not hurt, are you?" "No." "That's good. Oh, by the way, I ate all of today's food. It was delicious." "Okay." My one-word responses made Ran's mood feel a bit low. She couldn't help but think of today. How naturally Su Chen and Tang Jai chatted together. Why was chatting with her like this? It was her inner insecurity that made her unable to resist asking. "I'll just ask one thing. Please don't be angry. Do you like Tang Jai?" I frowned slightly. "Why would you ask that? Is it because of what Kong Yue shouted today?" "No, it's because I saw you chatting with her very naturally, being able to talk about many things, and also being quite close. But with me, it's a bit distant." When she said this, it was as if she were jealous. I shook my head, explaining that it's because I'm not very familiar with you. I don't say much to people I'm not familiar with. I am very familiar with Tang Jai. Then do you like her?" "No," I answered very decisively. "Really? But I feel like your relationship with her is quite good. Her grades are very good. She's also quite good-looking. And her athletic nerves are so good. It feels like there's nothing to dislike about her. You should like her, right? Haven't you considered being with her?" I kept shaking my head, denying the possibility. I would be beaten to death by my dad. Why? Because that would be unethical. To be with my own cousins. And Rand suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her eyes widened, her face full of shock. Oh, she is your cousin. My father's sister's daughter. Her mother was afraid that with her personality, she wouldn't make friends. So she asked the teacher to arrange for us to be desk mates. Otherwise, why do you think we could always be desk mates? Without changing seats. And Rand suddenly realized, as if she had breathed a sigh of relief. The tone of the conversation also shifted back. So you know what happened today, right? Someone shouting in public that you like your own cousins. I'm already being nice by not getting angry. Law? That was not being angry. I felt like you were already furious. It was quite scary. It's not worth getting fired up over that kind of person. If I were really angry, I would have slapped her face directly. And Rand pursed her lips and gave a light laugh. I turned my head to look at her. What are you laughing at? I'm telling the truth. Nothing. I just feel a bit more familiar with you now. Su Chen and Anran went home together. Walking into the house, Anran actually felt a sense of intimacy and belonging. Even though she had only lived here for 2 days, she had a feeling of treating this place as her own home. The two of them ate together. I took off my jacket, walked to the bathroom doors, suddenly thought of something, and asked Anran a question. Do you want to take a shower? Anran was doing her homework at the desk. A faint blush appeared on both of her cheeks. A shower? No, it's okay. I'll wash up outside. All right, you can use the guest one. It's fine, it has a lock. I gave her a reminder, and then walked into the bathrooms. Ah, okay. Her response was very quiet. Even her earlobes were completely red. She heard the sound of splashing water from the bathroom, thinking that Su Chen was showering right now. In her mind, she couldn't help but think of Su Chen's physique. That kind of inverted triangle, broad-shouldered body. What would it look like while showering? For a time, hazy images flickered in and out of her mind. No. Anran shook her head, immediately casting her imagination aside. The sound of water stopped. She immediately pretended that she had been studying hard all along, staring at the book, holding her pen. A moment later, I walked out of the bathroom wearing pajamas. Even though Anran tried very hard to focus, her gaze would still unconsciously drift toward Su Chen. Suddenly, Anran's eyes widened. She couldn't believe what she was doing. Was she just swallowing her saliva? Was she actually that kind of person? I didn't notice anything strange about Anran. I took a glance and went to blow-dry my hair. Anran slapped her cheeks with both hands, forcing herself to calm down, forcing herself to submerge in the sea of knowledge. Cast aside distractions. Cast aside distractions. Forget about 7 emotions and 6 desires. She heard Su Chen's phone on the desk ring. She subconsciously looked toward the sound and saw on Su Chen's screen a message notification. A strong sense of curiosity arose in Anran's heart. She really wanted to know what the content of that message was. After I came back, I took out my exercise book and prepared to start studying. Anran spoke up a bit unnaturally, whispering, that, your phone rang just now. Oh, is that so? I picked up the phone. After seeing the message notification, my eyebrows furrowed slightly. I only took one look, and then turned off the phone. I didn't reply. Anran had been observing my expression. This kind of reaction made Anran's curiosity itch even more. What message would Liu Xin send to Su Chen? At this time, at Liu Xin's house, she was lying on her bed, holding her phones. On the phone was the message she had just sent to Su Chen. What are you doing? If it were before, I would definitely reply in seconds. But now, half an hour had passed, and there was still no reply. She lay flat on the bed, covering her eyes with her arms. Seriously, wouldn't it be great if it was just like before? Why did it have to change? Turning off the lights. In the middle of the night, the two returned to the bedroom, preparing to sleep. The first time is strange. The second time is familiar. And by the third time, there was nothing to worry about. She gazed at the dark ceiling. In her mind, she began to recall the events that happened today. Does Tang Zhai not have any friends? And Rand suddenly spoke up. If I take the initiative to talk to her, will she pay attention to me? And Rand wanted to get to know her. If they could become friends, that would be even better. She will. but I suggest you don't make friends with her. Oh, why? And Ran was truly stunned. She thought she had misheard. Anyway, just don't contact her, that's all. She doesn't need any friends either. I rolled over, changing the subject, as if I were holding something back. And Ran propped up her body with her arms, looking at me on the other side. She said seriously, just let me tell you, I definitely want to be friends with her. Don't you worry. I opened my eyes. I didn't expect Ran to be so determined. After hesitating for a while, I sat up and turned on the lights. Fine. I sat up from the bed and started rummaging through something on the computer desk in front. Though she didn't know what Su Chen was looking for. I found a photo and handed it to Ran. Ran took it and looked, finding that the photo was of a little girl. She looked adorable, smiling very brightly. What was particularly striking was, she was holding more than a dozen award certificates in her left hand, and a trophy in her right hand. This is Tang Zhai. No way. And Ran could hardly believe it. The little girl in front of her was too different from Tang Zhai. Lively and cheerful, especially loved to smile. How had she become so cold now? It's true, I nodded. And continued. She was the typical child of someone else, showing extremely high talent from a young age. Music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, she mastered them all. She learned everything instantly. She could easily take first place in any competition. Listening to my words, and Ran couldn't help but open her mouth in surprise. A moment later, the corners of her lips curled into a slight smile. Now I want to be friends with her even more. Only by learning from someone so outstanding can I make progress. The next day, Liu Xin walked out of her house, heading toward the school. Yesterday she waited for Su Chen's message until very late. If it were before, she might have been happy, thinking she had finally gotten rid of Su Chen. But now, for some reason, why did she feel so miserable? She decided that when she got to school, she would ask for the opinions of Ran and the others. Liu Xin's eyes suddenly widened. She watched a person walk past her. Wasn't that figure Su Chen? Right, she subconsciously called out. I heard the sound, turned my head and glanced at her. After that, I took a look behind Liu Xin's, then turned back and left directly. Before Liu Xin could say anything, another person appeared beside her. Ran, you take this road too. How come I've never seen you before when going to school? I moved. I live in that direction now, so I take this road. Ran answered, stammering. Fortunately, she had just seen Liu Xin behind her, so she intentionally slowed her pace to create distance from Su Chen. Lo, what's wrong with you? Didn't sleep well? Liu Xin nodded, responding listlessly. Yeah, didn't sleep well. The two of them arrived at school together. Walking into the classroom, they found it was quite lively inside. Ran asked Tianrun, who was sitting in his seat. Tianrun pointed toward Su Chen and his group, and said, right now, Su Chen and Tang Zhai are very popular. Su Chen and Liu Xin looked towards Ran and Tang Zhai. They noticed a constant stream of people approaching the two desk mates. Some were chatting while others were giving them things. At this moment, Su Chen and Tang Zhai were in a very bad mood. It was clearly a peaceful place just yesterday. Why has it become such a chaotic place today? After the class ended, Liu Xin left her seat. She immediately went to Ran's side. Ran, accompany me to the restroom. The two of them walked towards the restroom. Just say whatever you want to say. Ran saw right through Liu Xin's thoughts. Only after Liu Xin made sure no one familiar was around did she whisper into Ran's ear, I'm telling you this, but don't tell anyone else. It's just, didn't I always say that I didn't like Su Chen? But for some reason, the more I look at him now, the more attractive he seems. What's wrong with me? Don't you dare tell him. He would definitely mock me. Liu Xin's face instantly turned bright red. And at this moment Ran's, her expression looked a bit blank. You couldn't have actually fallen for him, right? I don't know either. If I say it's possible, would you mock me? You could try talking to Su Chen about it. What if there's a chance? Ran knew very well that Liu Xin had no chance. Then can you do me a favor? Can you help me tell Su Chen? I want to have a chat with him. Ran didn't dare to tell her the truth. After all, when Liu Xin sent those messages last night, she had witnessed it with her own eyes. Su Chen didn't care at all. and chose to leave her on read. But if she was too direct now, it would definitely hurt Liu Xin's heart. Then what should I do? Can you talk to Su Chen? What if there is a turn for the better? And Ran knew Liu Xin didn't have a chance, but she still made this suggestion to her. Then can you help me out? Can you tell Su Chen for me? I really want to talk to him. Go talk to him. Why don't you go yourself? I don't dare to anymore. Liu Xin said awkwardly. Fine, I'll go talk to him, but I can't guarantee he'll agree. In the classroom, Anran came to my side. I have something to tell you. I looked up at Anran, then responded indifferently. It's not that I was acting aloof. I've been annoyed to death by all the fuss since early morning. It's only because I saw it was Anran when I looked up. If it had been anyone else, I really wouldn't have bothered to respond. Can you teach me? Lu Yunshuo suddenly ran over with an exercise book, interrupting her speech. What? And Ran was stunned for a moment. Her train of thought was completely disrupted. She looked at Lu Yunshuo with a blank face. You're talking to Su Chen. It's not good. This guy, can use. And Ran looked troubled. She couldn't say a word back. I looked up at the troubled and Ran's, then looked at the stubborn and unyielding Lu Yunshuo, then suddenly stood up. I grabbed Ran's wrist directly with one hand, under Lu Yunshuo's wide-eyed gaze. I led Ran out of the classroom. Ran was completely dazed. The feeling of being grabbed by me felt just like that day in the heavy rain, when Su Chen forcefully dragged her home. Liu Xin had been observing the situation in secret. After seeing this scene, the arrogant Lu Yunshuo was even more dumbfounded. His mouth twitched. I took Ran to the stairwell. Looking at Ran in front of me, I spoke. Go ahead. What's wrong with you? Aren't you afraid people will spread rumors? They will misunderstand you. Ran lowered her head and said in a small voice, just thinking about Su Chen pulling her out of the classroom made her heart race. I closed my eyes and spoke slowly. For someone who has been mocked by the same person for 2 years, would I care about rumors? But if you're afraid of being misunderstood, I'll go back and explain to them in a bit. Ran waved her hands repeatedly, explaining, it's fine. I'm already used to being blamed. How could I still be afraid of gossip? Then that's that. All right, if you have something to say it quickly. Class is about to start. Yeah, I'm just a messenger. It's Liu Zhen. She wants to talk to you privately. She asked to meet you at noon. Right here. I refuse. You tell her. There's nothing to talk about. I shook my head and refused directly. All right then, I'll let her know. The two of them left after finishing the conversation and went back to the classroom. At this time, Lu Yunshuo was like sitting on pins and needles. He felt like ants were crawling on his body. He desperately wanted to know what Su Chen and Ran were talking about. What bothered him the most was Su Chen pulling Ran's wrist to go out, and Ran didn't even resist. When class was over again, Liu Xin impatiently came to Ran's side. How did it go? She asked in a low voice. Her voice and eyes were full of expectation. Liu Xin, you should just give up on Su Chen. Didn't you say it yourself? You're not a good match for him. He refused. Is that so? Liu Xin lowered her eyes dejectedly, feeling an urge to cry. After lunch, the homeroom teacher walked in and stood on the podium. Okay, I have 2 things to announce. The first is that the monthly exams are coming up. Next Tuesday, everyone study hard. The second thing, the school sports meet is at the end of July. This is your last sports meet in high school. The events for the sports meet are all here. Sign up voluntarily. Discuss and decide among yourselves. Class monitor and sports rep. I'll leave these to you. 10. I'm still worried about the monthly exam. What should I do? At this moment, I'm holding my head with both hands, already starting to feel a headache. My ranking needs to go up by 50 places this time. After school in the evening, I left the school, prepared to go home, and Ran was in no hurry to follow. She left school with Liu Xin and Tianrun. They chatted for a while. When she got home, she found I was already making dinner. While the two of them were eating, and Ran wanted to find a topic. So she asked, are you interested in the sports meet? You're so good at sports. Aren't you going to sign up for any events? I shook my head and said I wasn't interested. What about Tang Zhai? Do you think she'd be willing to participate? Or it'll be lucky if she doesn't take sick leave that day. And you want her to sign up for events. Impossible. I suddenly got interested, raised an eyebrow, and asked, why is it impossible? Ted, I can even make a bet with you. If she participates, then I'll participate too. After finishing the meal, Ran and I were studying at the table. And Ran looked at the times. Looking at Su Chen's profile, she looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated. After hesitating for a few seconds, she slowly opened her mouth and asked softly,